Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of This Woman Can. I am your host, Janice Sutherland, career strategist, the Black woman over 40. So my guest this week is all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, and it is Nadia Byer-Thomas. She's a director of business operations and a consultant with 17 years of government and private sector experience. Now, why am I talking to her? Well, she has transitioned from the corporate world to being a business owner, a journey I know very, very well. And she's the co-director of 800 Tech Limited, where she's at the forefront developing HR solutions that tie seamlessly into each department of an organization. So I'm really keen to hear about Nadia's journey. Nadia, welcome and thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me, Janice. It's really a pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. So I'll start with the question I always start with. Tell us about your journey, a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Well, it's definitely an interesting one. As you mentioned before, I was in the corporate sector on the fast track, so to speak, gearing up for a major managerial position. And then I became pregnant.
Right.
And at that point in time, it was my fifth baby. This was roughly about 13 years ago.
Okay.
And it was my fifth baby. And I came to the realization very quickly that the amount of time spent in the corporate sector, balancing that as a mother just would not work out well because
Right.
I'm a workaholic by nature. I just love to work. I love to be busy. I love to be active. And I came to this intersection in my life where I realized, okay, what do I do now? Because I really wanted motherhood and I wanted to really embrace it in its fullest, while I also still wanted very much to work, because the idea of just sitting home and taking care of a baby absolutely is not for me. So I wanted to have my cake and I wanted to eat it simultaneously. And luckily for me, my husband had already established himself in the technology industry. At that point in time, we were known as Southern Technology Limited, and he said to me, "Listen, if this is what you want, come join, come across.
Right. Let's
start that initiative." I was scared beyond measure because one, I'm now working with my spouse, which has its own amount of complications associated with it.
I'm going to ask about that.
And two, the concept of there is no longer a guaranteed salary. Because as you know, once you're working for someone, if you're sick, if you're well, if you're on vacation, it doesn't matter. At the end of the month, there is definitely a salary hitting your bank account.
Yeah.
When you're working for yourself, it's on you. So that transition, coupled with the transition of going from being a mother for the first time, was significant.
Yeah.
But I left. I did it because I understood the importance of what I wanted out of my life at that point in time and the importance of where I was. So I left straight into the family business, straight into motherhood simultaneously. And with my crazy self, only did 1 month of full-on maternity leave where I was home resting with baby.
Yeah.
And then I grabbed up a playpen, grabbed up the bottle warmers, and I marched myself off to the office by the second month because I was like, this is enough counting 1 to 10 and enough doing ABC. My mind felt like it was slowing down.
Yeah.
So I needed that excitement of the corporate sector again, that excitement of the work environment.
Yeah.
And that was my transition. So I had baby on one arm and I was doing meetings on the next side. And my baby was in the corner in the playpen, sleeping, and I was functioning. And I was happy for the most part, but it was very, very, very challenging for me.
Yeah. So a few things I've picked up when I just listened to that. So the first thing you talked about was the fact that you wanted to be a mother, but you didn't want to be the stay-at-home mother. And I understand that. I had my children way long ago. And to be honest, at that point, I didn't have the option of whether I was going to be a stay-at-home mom or not. but I also knew I wanted a career, and the career doesn't stop just because we're having children. So
100%.
how did you, and it's interesting because some people say, oh, selfish, oh, you split your mother first, oh, and there is that camp. There is that camp. So how do you balance the fact that, yes, I want to be a career, I want to have a career, be a career woman, but I also want to be a mother too. How do you balance the two, if it's at all possible? Because again, I don't like that word balance either.
And it's not. And you're absolutely correct. It's not a balance. It took a while for me to discover that.
Yeah.
Because I got into thinking I can hold all the balls and juggle all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a problem, because I've always had that belief that if I put my mind to it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But that a baby is a live, growing, active human that doesn't care if you have a meeting, doesn't care if you have 100 things on your desk, and wants to lick down everything on your desk.
Yeah.
And I must say it was a mental struggle for me to come to the realization that I can have it all, but not at the same time.
Fabulous. The second time I've heard that today. It's really uncanny. And I think that's the great way to look at it.
And I didn't get there honestly by myself.
Yeah.
It was my sister and my husband saying to me, at some point in time, you need to let the baby go to the daycare.
Right.
You need to let the baby.
Yeah.
You need to start to carve out those imaginary lines.
Yeah.
Where this is your time to do your work, and it doesn't make you any less of a mom, and it doesn't mean that you're not doing it the right way. And while your logical mind is telling you they're 100% correct, your emotive side is like, oh my God, what does that mean? How did it, And so I went through that tailspin for a bit.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, okay, for me to move forward, I have to do this. And the first week was hard.
Yeah.
The first week I probably left the office about 3 times. I jumped in my car and I literally just drove to the daycare to see what my child was doing. I was that.
Yeah.
But very quickly I began to realize, I can get serious 4 hours, 6 hours of concentrated time done. I can really be productive, that I can switch off and I could go into full mommy mode and take baby home, spend. And I think me coming to terms with that was the huge difference. It's enough for somebody to tell you, but you've got to feel that. You've got to feel that that shift within yourself to realize, okay, this is how it works. This is how I can get full on being the businesswoman, the professional I want to be, and full on being the mom, and balancing the two and giving that.
Yeah. And what women don't realize, what you've expressed there, is creating boundaries. It's not just about creating boundaries, in the workplace or saying no to work. Sometimes it's creating boundaries for yourself in order for you to actually get to do what you need to do. And I've always said, I think in my book, In This Woman Can, the No BS Guide for Women Who Lead, I talk about creating boundaries with your children. And there was like, how could you, my children? I'm like, but you need, you're an individual before your child came along. And that doesn't stop because you have children. You're still an individual, and it still needs to be recognized. So I'm really glad you came to that consensus and worked it out. And I agree. It's definitely tough. Definitely tough.
It's tough. It's a journey. It takes time. And it takes you really processing each step. Realizing, okay, when I did this, what did that translate to at the end of the day? Now I have this done. Now I can spend time with my baby, not thinking, oh my God, I have this to finish and that to finish, because I've got. So it's really you almost like a constant self-introspection. Okay, so I can do a little bit more of this. Is the baby okay? Is it well fed? Those things. Yeah, but it takes time, and every person has their own individual journey to get to that point. Yeah.
Totally understand that. So Nadia, thank you for that. So let me ask you a question. Who's the boss in the business?
That's a tough one. I think it depends a lot on what the subject matter is. I think that's a better way to put it. Because on paper, very much my husband, because he's the managing director of the business. But depending on what the focus is, when it comes to the HR issues, the marketing issues, the administrative management, that falls under my forte. But when it comes to dealing with a customer on the technological side, that's his expertise. And even that took some time to carve that line down and say, this is where you sit and this is where I sit. And giving each other that space to allow us to be who we are at best. Because very much before I stepped into the business, he ran the show. So now with me coming in, it's for him to recognize, okay, I can release, while he may be saying I'm releasing this, he's still holding it. And then I'm like, give me this, I can handle it, So there was that pulling and tugging and adjusting. But I mean, it again took some time, but we're now at the point where, okay, this is your wheelhouse, this is my wheelhouse. And and what we've done is very much structure it 100% like a business. So we have management meetings. So we live together, but no, we don't talk business then, because that's not management meeting time. So on your schedule, like how you would make an appointment with a client, we have a slot for management meetings where we will sit and we will discuss, and there's an agenda. And so when you structure it very much like that, it helps to, again, continue to carve those boundaries and those very clear lines of what we'll speak about when we're home versus what we will not speak about. And it really helps. But again, that takes time. It's not just you don't just pop up and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. No, it's recognizing when you're stepping on each other's toes, taking a minute, stepping back and saying, you know what, this is really your sweet spot and it isn't mine. You run with it. I
totally understand it. And it really is about what you're saying there, is playing to each other's strengths, because my husband and I, we have another business, and I've always, in everything I've done, I've had a leadership role. I was a CEO of a telecoms company, and now I'm working the business, and it's like, okay, how do I not, for want a better word, throw my weight around? Because I have been so used to making these decisions or taking the lead, and now this is it's a partnership. It's a partnership, and I also respect that there's some things he's far better at than I am. He's far better at customer service than I'll ever be. I do not have the patience. I hands up. I said I can't deal with the customers, but in the back end, when it comes to technology and the processes and the systems. He can't fall, he can't match me on that. So like you said, you step into where you find your strengths and where you need to kind of step down or learn from each other. And I love the fact that you talk about having those boundaries, so again, it'd be very easy for you to talk about work 24/7 when it's our me time. It's our we time.
Exactly.
It's our we time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fabulous. So Nadia, what would you say is the best thing about your mid-career change?
I think the best thing would be the flexibility that it's given me. Because I am able to now travel when I need to travel, spend time with my kids when I need to spend time with my kids, spend time with my husband when I need to spend time with him, and also spend time with me, which it took me a while to realize how important that part was, because we're so accustomed taking care of everyone, focusing on everyone, checking in with everyone, and not checking in on ourselves. But for me, that became so important. I didn't have to wait on, okay, when is my vacation? I can only do this on the weekend. If I recognized that I was at a moment where I had enough, I could say, you know what, I'm going to take these 2 days and I'm just going to go and take a hiatus and recalibrate and come back in and check back in after that. Events that my kids would have that I normally would not be able to attend to if I was working for someone, I can go spend a whole day and be mummy, wear my mummy hat and be 100% mummy and get 100% involved. So for me, those things mattered because I really wanted to strike that balance between having that abundance of family time while still not losing myself, that professional hat that I wore and I love to wear.
And you mentioned it as we started talking about some of the challenges that that you went through. Could you share a couple of those?
I think for me, as I mentioned before, the first challenge was just, first of all, creating that boundary when I initially had my first child. It's Matthias, and really understanding that not being there did not mean that I wasn't a good mom, didn't mean that I was giving him the short end of the stick, so to speak. So I had to deal with that. I had to deal with trying to, as I suggested, be there and for everyone, but not be there for me. So I'm trying to be 100% mommy, trying to be 100% wife, trying to be 100% businesswoman, because in your quest to show that you can do it all and be all, and it's not, and what I realized, it wasn't about me trying to prove that to anybody else but me, because nobody else was looking for it. Nobody else was looking for it. It was just me saying, if I'm saying I could do it all, then I'm going to run around and do it all. And that was a battle within itself to come to that realization that you're fighting with you. You're battling with you. No one else is asking this of you. No one else is expecting this of you. So that for me was huge. And that's why I'm saying, having my sister there at that point in time and my husband there at that point in time to say, it's okay. You can let go of this piece. And that was big. Adjusting to working with my husband was a huge challenge. And just as you shared, being accustomed, being in your own space, paddling your own canoe, and now there is that adjustment of I'm your wife, but I'm also an authority on certain things. And understanding that him disagreeing with me isn't him usurping my authority, but him saying, this is what my position is. And being mindful of the difference, and because you would sit in a regular meeting and somebody disagrees with you and you're fine with it. But when it's somebody that you're in a relationship with, it's like, you're using that to get, you're using leverage. But no, so even, and I may say it in a very simplistic way, but there's a lot of mental heavy lifting involved to get to that point of understanding the difference between, this is not you using leverage, but this is you just stating your position. Me stating my position and us coming. So I think for me, those were the two big ones. Adjusting.
Fabulous. And I just want to add to that, when you said about, you want to do it, you want to do it all. The thing about you, and it's you and yourself telling you doing it all. I was laughing because I was thinking, because nobody knows you're doing it all. Nobody knows what doing all is, and if you said, I'm doing it all to something, they go, well, doing all of what? No one notices what you've done per se. It's just you doing what you do, but you feel you have to do it. You have to do everything. And dare I say it, to a certain level of perfection. So additional pressure.
Painfully and positively so.
Fabulous. So you've been successful in the process. Otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, Nadia. But how has failure? Because we know. Come on, we know. There's a rosy side, but there's a not so rosy side. So how has failure made a positive difference in your life?
I think what it did is make me realize it's not failure in the sense of you're not good enough for this, but
Yeah,
it's more telling me perhaps this is not your path, which is different.
right.
Because at some point in time, you have to say, okay, I've tried this once,
Yeah,
I've tried it again.
yeah,
If it's not working out, maybe this is not for you. Maybe you need to revisit, okay, what not first, because you think, okay, what am I not doing right? You do the whole, introspection, and you're looking at it. What am I not doing right? What do I need to do
yeah,
correctly? And you go back and forth. And you say, perhaps this is just not for me.
yeah,
Perhaps
yeah.
I'm supposed to be somewhere else doing something
Mm,
different. Not
mm,
necessarily better, but different.
yeah,
And for me, a lot of times when I don't succeed at something, I say, okay, let's see, is it that I was supposed to do it differently? Is it what was my process?
yeah,
And if my process was on point, then perhaps this wasn't for me.
yeah,
So there's a lot of, for me personally, self-talk of, okay, is this right? Did I do everything I could possibly do? Did I look at it from all possible angles? I I have that
yeah,
conversation with myself. And if I know to myself, I've done it to the
yeah,
best
yeah.
and still know, okay, is this where I should sit? Should
Fabulous.
I look at a totally different
Yeah,
perspective, position? And that is what failure has done for me. It has awakened that kind of analysis in me. It's not, and again, in the beginning, it was the beat down of, oh my God, I'm a hot mess, But eventually you begin to realize, okay, it's deeper than that. It's something more than that. And you start, but this comes with age, this comes with time, this
yeah,
comes
yeah.
with
Experience.
understanding who you
Yeah,
are as
yeah,
a person. Yeah, very much so.
yeah, yeah.
Very much so.
So thanks for that, Nadia. So, but if you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know
Mhm.
now, what would you do differently?
I think I would be kinder to myself.
Okay.
I think the conversations that I had with myself at that point in time would be kinder conversations.
Right.
Recognizing now that I was okay, recognizing now that that was my best, recognizing now that this is literally just a journey that you have to go through to
Yeah.
reach to where you are.
Yeah.
Because each stumbling block, each challenge in hindsight, I recognize how this informs where I am right now. Back then,
Mhm.
of course, you can't see it, but 2020 is a hell of a thing.
Yes.
And, so for me, um, it's really that conversation because
Right.
I know how much growing up I would beat up on myself for certain things. And now you realize how much that experience was needed.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. So finish this sentence for me, please. My best career advice for other women at midlife is.
My best career advice for other women at midlife is that there is nothing like a work-life balance. There is nothing like it. You
Ah,
know, I'm can I've flipped twisted it.
yeah,
It does not exist.
yeah,
You can have it all, as I mentioned before, but you can't have it all at the same time. It's
yeah,
just not possible unless you literally want to burn out.
yeah,
But you
yeah,
cannot have it all at the same time.
yeah, yeah.
And I think because, I mean, we bandy that around in society all the time, work life balance.
Mhm.
But so it creates that mental, it provokes our mental basically to think, hey, yeah, I can juggle this and juggle that. Not at the same time.
Right,
Definitely not at the same time. It's just
right.
not feasible for you to have a healthy and a whole life. It simply isn't.
So wait, so let me ask you a question then. So when you have to make that decision, you know, and there's work pressures, because we know there's still deadlines, even though it's your own business, there's still
Oh,
gonna be
yes.
deadlines and pressures.
Mhm.
There's still gonna be the
Mhm.
demands from family and, you know, and being a partner, all that kind of stuff. How do you, what's your decision? How do you decide which takes priority?
For me, priority is always family.
Okay.
It actually is always family. But I am a hell of a planner. So and because I really don't want that collision
Right,
course.
right.
So I'm the person that would plan a family vacation 6 months to 8 months in
Yeah,
advance. So it's
I hear that.
planned, hotel accommodation, tickets are done. Everybody is well coordinated, an itinerary of what we're going to do every
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
and that's blocked off. So then I now know from this date to this date, it's blocked off. So when I'm planning out my projects that I'm doing during the year, my project will end at a particular time, giving me the space if it rolls over,
yeah,
and then I have that lag time for my vacation. So that's what I do to
yeah.
make sure. I mean, there are occasions, yes, where it will lap over, but even when it laps over, I do the family time and then I come back and I pop my laptop at whatever hour and I get the work done. So the client isn't compromised,
Right.
but my personal time is used to cover, which I know is not always the best plan of action, but we also still need to be mindful of we have our bills to pay.
Yeah.
So I will
True.
pop my laptop, get the work done for the client, but normally that's how I treat with it. I way in advance,
Yeah.
6 months in advance,
Yeah.
8 months in advance, and I coordinate. I mean, they laugh at me, but it works. I'm the project planner. I'm the
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheet. You
Yeah.
know, how do we get this done so that everybody can be at the same place at the same time? That's what I pretty much do to
Yeah.
make it work.
I hear
So
that.
the
I hear that.
organization from work spills over
Yeah.
into my personal life very much so. Yeah.
Excellent. So Nadia, what are the 3 things you've learned about yourself during your career?
There's 3 things I've learned is that I'm a lot more emotional than I thought.
Okay.
That's number one. Yeah, I I didn't realize how much until employees would come and they would share their stories with you,
Right.
seeking your, especially when you're, I don't know if it's because you're a woman or because they look at you as someone with more knowledge and more,
Mm.
I don't know what the perspective is, but when they would share their stories with you, and it's almost as though like you're walking in their shoes.
Right.
And I'm like, what's happening? What's
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
here? But I did not recognize how much it would impact and affect me to the point where I would remember every detail. I would remember to check on you. I would
Right.
remember you, and that side of me I was surprised about because I was always very much okay. Yes, we are colleagues, but
Mm.
not to that extent. But I recognize that when you reach out to me, it's a totally different
Right.
experience and relationship that is shared.
Right.
I've also realized I am very much the leader that rolls up their sleeves and gets involved.
Mm.
I'm very much into that. I don't subscribe to, okay, do da 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 da. No. Okay, how can I help make this work so
Yeah.
that we can get the best possible outcome? I'm very much into that. And I think it gives you a different kind of camaraderie with your team
Yeah.
when they realize you're not just giving orders, but you're
Yeah.
actually there in the trenches.
Yeah.
Very much into, okay, if something goes wrong, I take the hit for it.
Yeah.
I will not say, well, I had John doing this, da, 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 da. I will not do that. I will take the hit. I will stand. And I think it's because growing up, the managers that I had were very much that. So,
Right.
you emulate what you like.
Yes. Yes.
And I was like, wow. And that's when I was in the trenches learning. So you're butting your head a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw my manager like, this falls under me, so therefore if you need to deal with somebody, deal with me. And I'm like, but I messed up. And he would never come at me, he would never like chastise me.
Yeah.
And I found that was so amazing to see somebody that this is my responsibility ultimately, and I will take it.
Right.
And I've really subscribed to that. So I'm very much that. Anytime there is anybody putting their head, any sort of challenge, okay, I take responsibility for it. You have a grouse, deal with me.
Yeah.
Then I will have that conversation later on. So, that's another. The third one would be the ability to listen.
Right.
And I think people don't understand the importance of that, because sometimes it's not what is said, but what is not said.
Yeah.
That is important in the conversation.
Yeah.
And that comes with experience, with time, recognizing really when someone comes to you and they're sharing, it's not just literally the words coming out of their mouth, but the body language, what is not being said, what they're hinting at. Those are the things, those are the skills that really that have guided me quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. And you're right, it's not listening, it's hearing. So you could be listening to somebody, but are you hearing what's being said? And that's it. And the first one is you empathy, you're empathetic. That's what it is. Not emotional, you're empathy. You have good empathy. So my almost last question, Nadia. What does success feel like to you?
For me, success feels like discomfort. And it feels...
Did you say discomfort?
I did.
Okay, all right.
I did. Discomfort. And it feels like progress at the same time.
Okay.
And because to move from one point to the next, what I've recognized in my life, it meant that I had to step out in some way. Whatever it may be, whether it is that because it's the change from, okay, I was this yesterday, this is who I'm going to become next year or next month or whatever the case is. And that shift, whether the shift is, okay, I'm now going to be exercising this particular way, or I'm now going to be putting in this amount of studies, or whatever it is, that discomfort or disruption in my spirit and my energy, I have to go through that. There's no easy, slick way of dodging that bullet. And I've recognized that. If I want to progress, if I want to see a different version of myself in whatever aspect of my life it is, whether it's academia, because I still do courses, I still get out there and do courses. I see no reason to stop. Whether it's academia, whether it's in my physical health, exercising, whatever it may be, there is that period of discomfort and disruption that I must go through to get to the next side. So for me, I know it's an odd response, but it's discomfort and then that progress that I see, that growth spurt that I see. And then I look back, I go, okay, I can do this now. I understand this now. And that excites me, but it also scares me because I don't know how intense that discomfort is going to have to be, or that disruption is going to have to be.
Okay. Great answer. And you please know that was my last official question. But if people want to connect with you, know more about your business, Nadia, how can they do that? Or any great projects coming up that you may want to share with the listening audience?
Well, in terms of connecting with the business, we have our website, which is www.800-tech.com. I am on LinkedIn as Nadia Byer-Thomas. So you can just search me up and I'm on LinkedIn and you will get a lot of good information about our company. And right now, as a business technology company, we're aggressively into digital transformation. COVID has trusted us even more so into it. We
Yeah.
were there before, but it's trusted us even more so into it. Right now, we're doing, because many companies, as you know, are not financially equipped to take that leap.
Yeah.
So we're aggressively doing subscription-based digital transformation, where you can now become digitally ready on a subscription program where you pay monthly.
Right.
We have from 6 months to as much as 36 months payment plan that you can utilize to become digitally ready. So therefore, it doesn't really hit your bottom line as intensely as if it's a one-off project.
Excellent.
So we've found creative ways to really help a lot of companies become technology ready, digitally ready.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I'll be sure to put all the links in the show notes so any interested listeners can contact you directly. So Nadia,
Awesome.
that was my last question. Thank you so much for being my guest on This Woman Can.
Thank you for having me, Janice. It was indeed a pleasure.
Thank you.